claws.
You know, Jason, I'm a little bit worried about Disney.
Oh?
Well, they own Mickey
Everything.
Mouse, right?
Yeah.
They own fucking Marvel.
Yep.
They own Star Wars.
Rage Select.
They own Rage Select.
They bought us the
They
other
own
day.
Taco Bell. They own pretty much everything at this point.
Truly is the happiest place on earth.
It's just a matter of time until we're all walking around with like cybernetic implanted ears just stapled to our heads that are piping "It's a Small World" into your brain until you break under the pressure.
Oh, God.
Become a zombie. Well, welcome everybody to Rage Select. We're reviewing Disney Infinity 2.0, and Jason, you didn't play Disney.
No,
Infinity.
I mean, I played it over here, and I think I get the idea.
I
but
think that it,
you'll review, and I'll just sit here.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. I skipped on the first one because this is without a doubt one of the biggest money sinks as far as video games go of all time.
yeah.
No DLC, no nickel and dime DLC even matches the just the sheer audacity of this in games like Skylanders and stuff like that. So for those of you who have never played the first one, and by the way, in this review, I can't really talk about changes between the first one and the second one because I didn't play the first one, but Disney Infinity is basically Disney's answer to the Skylanders series, and for those of you who don't even know about that, basically you buy this game, and with it you get this little plastic portal that plugs into your console, and you get these little figures, and you put them on top of the portal, and then they jump into your game, and you can play with them, and you can level up, and you can do all this stuff.
And whatever you put on the portal determines what you're playing and who you're playing with.
Right. And in the first one, I can say that in the first one, I wasn't really super interested in, right? Because it was Disney characters. It was Buzz Lightyear, it was Frozen, it was all that stuff. But this 2.0 has a whole section of it. It still has some Disney stuff that is nothing but Marvel superheroes.
Yeah.
So before we start, I feel like it's like one of the things about whether people listening to this review feel like they should buy the game or not is it's incredibly important to run down exactly what this shit's going to cost you.
Yeah.
So the base...
Parents, listen closely.
Are there parents who listen to this?
Yeah, absolutely there
Okay,
are.
all right. The base set, which comes with the game, the portal, and it comes with Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Avengers Tower, and 2 game packs, and I'll get into what all that means later on, is $75.
No love for Dr. Druid.
That's a great
Fuckers.
Wait, who? What are you talking?
Don't worry about it.
Are you just gonna? Are you here just to drop obscure Marvel knowledge throughout?
Play to my strengths.
That is, and I'm going to tell you right now before we get to the end of the review, that is not a bad deal. It's when you start adding in the other stuff that it becomes ridiculous. Because the Guardians of the Galaxy pack that comes with Gamora, Star-Lord, and the Guardians of the Galaxy playset is $35. The Spider-Man playset that comes with Spider-Man Nova and the Spider-Man playset, that's $35. Each one of the individual figures, Captain America, Iron Fist, Venom, all of the sub-characters, $15 a pop. So
no Luke Cage because... racist.
Well, you know what? I thought about when we said that when we were playing the game, right? But Nick Fury you can get in the first gen rollout, and Falcon is coming in the next rollout of stuff as well. So
White Nick Fury or black Nick Fury?
I think it looks like Nicolas Cage shoved into a tiny little figure, or Samuel L. Jackson.
Nick, they're different.
What are you telling me that wasn't Nick Cage in the Avengers? You're just in
No.
blackface the entire time.
I know you think he's an amazing actor, but he's not quite that good.
Can we afford Samuel L. Jackson? No, but you know what we can't afford? Nicolas Cage in blackface.
Yeah.
All right. So when you start this up, the game launches, and this is, I believe, the first one was only available for the Wii, the 360, and the PS3, but this one's available for everything: Wii U, PS4, Xbox One, and all that stuff. You start the game up, and it takes you through a little intro section, and then you basically have a couple of different options. Unlike Skylanders, each one of the campaigns that you can do, you have to have this little clear token that you put on the portal of well, they call it something different, the Infinity Portal or whatever, to play in that. So you can't just load up the game and play the Spider-Man set without having a little Spider-Man figurine to put down that unlocks that set. So by default, you get the Avengers set, and you get these 2 other things that I'll go into later. So you put that on there, you jump in, and from there, what you're looking at is kind of a fairly, at first glance, what seems like a fairly simplistic third-person action game. You're just behind your character, you're running through the city. It's Avengers as the one that you get by default. You get out of Avengers Tower, and then you've got a whole city to go across. Loki's coming, there's all kinds of frost giants everywhere.
Yeah.
And at first glance, the game looks really simple. Like it just like when we first started playing it, you've got a range attack, you've got a melee attack, you're running around, you're picking up missions from people, and then you're running and you're doing those. But very quickly you'll find out that there's actually a fair amount of depth in this game. I was trying to think about it for a review. I was just like, hey, this is some kids bullshit. But then I just started adding up all the different things in the game in my head, and I was like, no, there's a fair amount here. Like each character has an upgrade tree that dramatically changes, like adds powers and augments powers and makes them more powerful. And like if you wanted to upgrade all of your, like just for the main pack, right, you had 3 figures, you want to upgrade all of them, you beat the entire campaign for the Avengers, which takes about 8 hours. Then you'd have to go into the other play sets and play those for about 8 hours apiece to max level all those characters.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. So if you're the sort of person that gets into a game and plays it and then just plays it obsessively for long periods of time, I think this shit's perfect. The graphics, they're all stylized, they're all a little bit cartoony, but they look great. I played on the PS4, and one of the things I noticed on the old ones was that there was a lot of frame rate issues. The PS4 was a little stuttery at times, but
it wasn't running as well as you would think.
Yeah, for a game that simple, you think it would run better. But it's tolerable. I mean, 30 dips a little bit from time to time. But where you really start to see what's going on in the game is when you start unlocking stuff for the toy box and for the individual things. Like there's a whole bunch of vehicles that you can get. There's all these different power-ups and upgrades and modifiers that you can get. Now, on the bad side of this, the actual game, when you dig down into it, is fairly simplistic.
Yeah.
Combat, you have a lot of different options for, especially depending on what character. Like Thor and Iron Man can both fly, right? But
that changes the dynamic of the fight considerably.
Yes, yeah. Like Black Widow, you can't fly, but you can summon a motorcycle that can fly, like a shield motorcycle that can fly up in the air. So, and you can also get, we didn't even get into this on the other one, but you can also, they sell these like individual little foil packs that have random modifier discs in them that you can put underneath your character to give like the Black Widow Falcon's wings, and then she can fly around with Falcon's wings, or a specific gun or something like that. But like in the main story thing, you have basically one type of enemy, the frost giants. There's a light frost giant, a heavy frost giant. There's a couple different variants of the heavy ones that require a little bit more work, and then there's some drones that you get that come in from another character, and you're going to end up fighting those things over and over and over and over and over again. Like they introduce heavier and heavier types of enemies, but there's only about 4 total for each individual pack. Like I saw in one of the other ones that the Venom symbiotes are the thing in the Spider-Man pack, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's like little ones, and there's bigger ones, and there's a really big one, right? And that's pretty much it. There's also only a few different types of mission types, especially in the Avengers one, where you'll go to a place and pick a thing up and take it over here. Or you go to this place and you'll kill everybody, or go to this place and defend a thing while everything blows up. So that part of the game is a little bit tedious because you just end up doing the same thing over and over and over again. The Wasp tells you, oh, I need you to go do this, and then you need to do it again, then you need to do it again, you need to do it a 4th time. Which means that it's one of those games, the best way to describe it is that it's one of those games that is wonderful if you're like watching TV and you just want to waste some time by playing a game that you don't have to concentrate a whole hell of a lot on.
Yeah.
You can set up to a higher difficulty level, and it does get more challenging, but it was never the sort of thing. It's not like Devil May Cry or something where you have to like focus, and concentrate, or else you're going to be screwed.
You just kind of mash the buttons and go along with the ride.
Well, that's the weird thing, is that it's actually a lot less button mashy than I originally thought, because there's a lot of different combos that you have to pay attention to. But it's still not an incredibly taxing game. Now, along with the Avengers Tower and the base set, you also get the Kiln, and you get Assault on Asgard. And those two are other play sets, and the Kiln is basically a Diablo-style randomly generated area where you go in these portals, randomly generates an area.
It's the prison from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. And it's actually pretty cool in that you get these little prisoner dudes, the little like weird Weeblo things. Weebles, not Weeblos, that's Boy Scouts.
Weeblos is Cub Scouts,
that you get. You're actually in that play set. you pick up loot out of chests, and it's like purple loot and blue loot and stuff. And you can equip a little guy that goes along with you that can attack and do stuff. So there's, like I said, there's a fair amount of depth. And Assault on Asgard is a tower defense game, and it totally has just waves and waves and waves of these guys coming in, and you have to set up your towers and that sort of thing. Both of them perfectly functional, viable video games. So the thing is that I feel like the main takeaway for this particular game is if you're the sort of person who needs a game to evolve quickly and constantly be challenging you with more and more gameplay, this is not that game. If you're the kind of person who can play the same style game for a long period of time, then this game would be perfect for you. And in fact, I feel like it's got, like I said, a much bigger draw because, well, I'll tell you this right now. After playing the Guardians of the Galaxy playset for this, it's like, why the fuck was there not a Guardians of the Galaxy video game? Seriously.
Why the fuck wasn't there an Avengers video game?
I mean,
like a real, honest to God, full AAA release.
Right, but I don't even feel like Guardians is easier than Avengers, though, right? You've got, I'm not going to go into the things, but there's several different places that they are in that game that you could make into a level, and this one is fighting, and this one is sneaking, and this one is whatever, because it works perfectly here. You spend all of your time, like, where the Avengers one is in, is it New York City where Avengers takes place? Okay.
Yeah.
I get confused because of DC.
What do you want? You know, Star City.
Well, it's I know all the fictitious DC cities, but I don't know like where Iron Man hangs out. Is it just California in the comics?
It's usually it's usually New York.
Oh, okay.
They're starting to mix that up a little bit, but it's mostly New York.
Okay. But in Guardians, you come into nowhere and you do all of your. Nowhere is actually a much more interesting place because it's got these different districts that you travel between that have a lot of verticality to them. Whereas New York City in the Avengers is basically it's a lot like if you've ever played one of the Spider-Man games, right?
Yeah.
Tall buildings. There's a waterfront at one point. It's on an island, kind of GTA style, and you run around and blow stuff up. Nowhere is a lot more dynamic in that you have to go through different places and pick different stuff up. And what's actually really cool is that in each individual level, there's actually 10 tokens that you could pick up to bring one of the other characters into that level. So like in New York City, there's 10 Rocket Raccoon tokens that you can get, and then you can bring Rocket Raccoon into that level to play stuff. And when I was playing the Nowhere, the Guardians one, it was Tony Stark. And I had Iron Man, right? I didn't have Rocket or Nova, but I did have Iron Man. And when I put Iron Man down in the Guardians playset, it actually triggered a cutscene where the Collector talks to Tony Stark, which was really cool. Also, each individual playset has a shitload of different collectibles and hidden things that you can get, which takes you into the Toy Box mode, which is basically your level creation system where you can use all the different stuff that you've unlocked to build all of your own levels. And it's pretty fully functioned. Like there's a rudimentary kind of programming language in there where you can set kind of if-then statements to...
Oh, wow.
Like I played one, and the thing is that you can upload your own levels, that you can download recommended levels that other people have made, and so like they can make checkpoints. Like there was one that was set up kind of like a side-scroller because they can kind of control where the camera is. And there's a lot. I mean, there are a lot of different like tiles and enemies and things to unlock. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if this is really true or not, but I think you can use all your Disney Infinity 1.0 stuff on this as well. I don't think 2.0 stuff can go backwards,
right?
But there's a thing called the Hall of Heroes in this that basically, as you unlock or collect figurines, there's this rotunda that shows you statues and stuff of everything that you've collected. There's a second one for all the Disney Infinity 2.0 ones, and then there's even a third one that's just specifically for Marvel characters.
I want to see, like, Mickey's being held captive by the Collector. He's being tortured by the Kree.
Yeah, that was one thing that was interesting was that at least in this original rollout, like I think that they're planning, I think there's a Tinkerbell and a Merida pack from Brave that are coming out. But this initial rollout, it's all Marvel, right? I mean, there are, I believe, a few of the Disney. I feel that there are a few Disney characters that you can buy, but for the most part, like the first 3 play sets and then the sub play sets from the main game are all Marvel.
Yeah.
So they're really leaning into the Marvel stuff.
I want to see Drax go into, like, Snow White and just kick some ass.
Yeah, just go into Robin Hood and start gutting the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Hell yeah.
That's a whole different game. That's a Flash game, I think, on the internet. But
I want to see Rocket as one of the as the sassy. No, I want to see Rocket replace the raccoon in Pocahontas.
has somebody already done that? Did we just create a thing?
I think we just created a
a thing for the internet. Somebody has to have already done that. Come on. But yeah, that's worth noting is like, say you're a Guardians of the Galaxy fan, right? And this is where we get into the value proposition of Disney Infinity, right?
Yeah.
Is $75 for the main game, right? $35 for Guardians of the Galaxy, which comes with Gamora and Star-Lord. Drax, Rocket, Groot, $15 a pop. It's $45 on top of the $35 on top of the $75 main game. Seriously.
Yeah.
And that's just Guardians. Then there's the Spider-Man set that has Iron Fist and Venom and other people. Like, it's crazy how much you could drop into this. I feel like it's the sort of thing that that if people are unsure about it, they should just get the base pack, right? They should just get the main game and just check that out. Because there's a good, even without the toy box mode, there's a good like 12 to 14 hours of content just in that all by itself. Each one of the play sets seems to be between 6 and 8 hours, which is pretty, that's pretty solid for just a straight up $60 video game these days. So there's a lot of value. Back on the downside, I can say that we did have that problem where the game crashed.
Yeah.
And it wiped out my save game.
Oh, God.
And it only happened once, but it made me really paranoid.
It was catastrophic. If they had half a brain, they would make a DuckTales pack.
Oh, yeah.
And then you should have the ability to put Venom in it. Or the Punisher.
Well, are they going to put the Punisher out?
They should.
The Marvel Knights series of Disney Infinity 2.0.
Blade
can
hunt the Count from Sesame Street.
Yeah, just get Ghost Rider like riding down the Seven Dwarfs.
Yes.
This is the Disney game that we want to see that is not necessarily the Disney game that we will ever get to see.
I know.
But outside of that, I mean, as far as the downsides to the game goes, I feel like the only things that I can really super criticize, I mean, this is Disney, right? Voice acting production off the charts. We got a bunch of people that were doing their best. It's weird seeing these characters that have gone from like Nick Fury is Samuel L. Jackson. Now you've got this Nick Fury that's a guy doing his best Sam Jackson impression.
It's Keith David.
Right. Or Tony Stark, somebody doing their best Downey Jr. that's been written down to the level of family appropriate,
I love it how, like, in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, they try to get someone who sounds kind of like Robert Downey Jr., but he sounds a little bit more like Jack Black.
Jack Black for Iron Man and
yes.
Iron Man 4. The other thing that's a little bit of a downer on this is that there aren't that many villains. It's like I was saying before, not only just the enemy frequency, but there's only a few big bad guys in here. And it feels like with something like the Avengers, especially because, I mean, for fuck's sake, in the Guardians of the Galaxy playset, in the second run where they're putting out new figures, they're putting out fucking Yondu.
That's so weird.
And I'm like, you could have put more. It's the Avengers.
Yeah.
There's a shitload of Avengers villains that you could have had. Like, I know everybody's seen the Avengers movie and Loki, right? But
yeah. How about Kang?
There's one other one in there that I'm not going to talk about for spoilers, but it feels like they really missed an opportunity, especially in that Avengers pack, to populate that New York City world with a lot more villains and different stuff. In fact, I find it bizarre that the Spider, and I didn't have it, but I can only assume because of the way the game is set up, that the Spider-Man play set, which is obviously going to be in the city, right, is disconnected from the Avengers play set, which is also in New York City, because they both operate in the same city, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't played the Spider-Man one, but I could only assume that he's not on, like, Spider Island or anything. Like
He was until recently.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
He was on Spider Island? Okay, maybe.
That's what he called it.
Yeah, maybe I'm full of shit. Maybe I'm full of shit.
He was an Avenger until recently.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, there might be some weird licensing thing there.
The only other things I can think of that bugged me about the game was that for a PS4 game, it's slow. And one of the things that I really don't like about it is that, like, I'd be in a situation where I was getting mobbed or something, right? And I wanted to save the person that I had. Because what happens is when one of your characters dies, you can either take them off the portal and put another one on to continue from the same location, or you could just go back to the last checkpoint, start over from the last checkpoint. So if you only had one character, you're not screwed if they die, right? And then after a period of time, those characters will become usable again. And the thing that pops up that tells you that they're usable again doesn't pop up prominently enough. Because when I was trying to like level up Iron Man, right? I'm like, shit, he died. I'm going to put Thor down here for a little while. But then I would constantly be taking Thor off, putting Iron Man on. And there's a good like 20 seconds worth of lag as it realizes you've taken one off and reads the second one to put it on, and then brings up the menu saying, you can't use this motherfucker yet. Take him off and put the other one back on. Also, one of the mission types in the Avengers one was this protect this bullshit box for 2 minutes while everybody tries to destroy it. And that went a lot towards showing me how these controls and powers for these guys were not really made for that scenario because it was very difficult as opposed to everything else. Outside of that, though, I mean, this is a perfectly functional video game that does quite a bit. I don't think I'll ever go back to it, and I'm definitely not buying any more play sets for it because they're fucking expensive. But
what do you give it?
I would give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Cool.
I think it's better than average. I think that if you're into it, I think that's going to be the biggest question in everybody's mind. One, are you into it? Two, if you have any desire whatsoever to use the toy box mode where you build your own stuff.
Yeah.
And they do have some new stuff in there where you can like generate a generic city and then go in and then edit it as opposed to just getting a big flat field, right? You can generate different tile sets and then go in and alter them. So there's a lot of functionality in there. If you're into that, it's probably more like a 4 for that sort of person. For me, it was a 3.5. It was fun for a couple of days, but it's not the sort of thing that really hooked me to the point where I'm going to go back to it. So,
okay. Here's what I want to see, and I will buy all of them if they implement this.
Yes.
You're playing the Aladdin playset. You're Aladdin. You go into the Cave of Wonders, and you're like, oh, there's all these gems and swords and a lamp. And wait, what's this? En Sabah Nur. Oh, I am Apocalypse. And you awaken Apocalypse so that he can strike down the weak.
I will tell you what's going to happen, Jason. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to predict the future for you. Within a year from today, right, from when this video comes up, you are going to be reviewing Disney Infinity 3.0, Star Wars.
See? This is why we can't have nice things.